Reggae Radio, PowerReggae.com. Another Monday we back. Special guest in the house tonight. If you've seen my Facebook, you know I was excited to do this interview. We've been talking about this interview for a couple of weeks.
Yes, people, Frightnrs in the town representing a nice area, the best borough of New York, known as Queens.
We ain't gonna get into that dispute.
Nah, Queens Posse, stand up.
We're not gonna get into that dispute yet, but you know, shout out to that record that Johnny just played a little while ago, Dispute. One of my favorite records off of the latest, not the latest, because you guys did something special for the fans, but off of one of your latest releases. Special guest in the house tonight, out of Queens, New York, the Frightnrs.
Yes, we got Chuck right here.
Hey, it's your man Rich.
Yes. So, you know, it's a group. We have a couple of the members here with us tonight. We're going to get a little bit more familiar with these guys. Definitely a sound that I love. Definitely putting out good music. Let's get into the interview. The Frightnrs. Let's start with the name of the band and the formation of the band, where you guys actually started out. Where did the name The Frightnrs come from?
Alright, this is Chuck. Frightnrs has been a name, I grew up, in Queens, kind of being a record digger. I used to be in love with the 60s, and even being from New York, there was a ska reggae scene, and out here all we had was weird, third wave ska bands. The best we knew was the Specials growing up, and I ran into this band, the Slackers, right here from New York, 1991, from right out here. And that was the first time I ever heard someone say they're playing ska and heard a tune like that, and I was like, wait, what is this, And then I found out about Rocksteady, and through that band, I found out about artists like Cornell Campbell, Alton Ellis, Heptones, and it blew my mind, by it just completely changed my whole idea, and I was just so almost in debt to the genre that I just became obsessed with it, and I became obsessed with collecting records of all my favorite tunes and shit. And after a while, even being a selector from New York and trying to select tunes, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of hot selectors out here. This is a nice pinpoint of some of the nicest selectors of the country. And I just didn't see much future to that, but I was also inspired that, what other people can't do is write this it's been written before, and I kind of made it this is what I'm gonna do, and since I even had that idea, coming from pretty much the Specials, I was always in love with how they portrayed their band and their representation of having this dark black and white skeleton dark vibe. And I became in love with the name The Frightnrs because I thought it represented that. But having the vibe of this kind of horror vibe, but really we only write love songs, and you know what I mean? It's really a representation of heartbreak, kind of the undead version of that, if you could kind of accept that, just what actual heartbreak does to a person, and how much actual material we got off of literally just heartbreak, off our singer our man Dan, and just throughout the band, all our words and everything we write just comes right from that. But that's pretty much where that came from. And since I tried to start the Frightnrs, I went through 3 different groups, and then when I met Dan, it was a wrap, I pretty much gave up on it because I tried some instrumental things, and there's just no love in that. There's instrumentalists could go only so far writing on rhythms, but that's what's missing from most of bands today, most reggae bands. It's your singer is key, and if you have a singer that encompasses exactly what you want, and you could create a certain vision through that music, that's exactly what we wanted to do.
Okay. You gave me a great explanation of the reason the band was formed. One last question. Why do you leave the E off of Frightnrs in the name?
The E's are in Queens. They left the name, and they went back to Queens. Now, we actually had to, when we first started, we put a bunch of stuff up, and we already had a good following, and we already had a good thing going with the name, with the E's in it. But as soon as it started getting a little bigger, we wanted to make sure it was separate from that Michael J. Fox movie. We started searching us, and it would just be Michael J. Fox from the Frightnrs, and so we took the E's out, kind of reluctantly, but we slowly came to love it. It was a cool thing that we ended up doing.
Okay, I just mentioned that for the listeners, just in case you loving the sound, you loving the music, and you want to look these guys up. The Frightnrs does not include the E's. Okay, now you guys went through personal tragedy within the band. You lost a member of the band. But before we get to that, the early works, I know you guys did a couple of EPs. Going back to the formation of the band, you said you went through a couple variations of the Frightnrs at first. Was it different members you had? Different members you had to replace? When did you come up with the 4 guys that we know as the Frightnrs?
Yeah, so the core 4 was there from the beginning, but again, it started with Dan. Once he came, the pieces fit, and it was all good. We had 2 other members in the band before that, and so we kind of went through, we changed, we got rid of a couple of the other members, and then we really started like buckling down and learning from Dan and learning from Chuck's kind of record expertise. I mean, he was showing us stuff that was the cream of the crop. So once it was us 4 and we really got into the zone, that's when I feel like it started taking off.
Okay, breaking down the members and what are their individual, what do they bring to the table? Okay,
Yeah.
Dan, that we're speaking of, is Dan Klein.
Yeah, Brookie.
Okay, and he was the lead singer of the band.
He's the lead singer of the band, yeah.
Unfortunately, he passed away. You portrayed yourself as the selector, more of the music.
I play organ and piano in the band.
Okay. And
Rich right here plays drums.
Okay.
And then I got my older brother in the band, Preet. He plays bass. And like, we never actually ever had an actual guitarist, That's like the 4 members of the crew, I mean, we go on like, that's the Frightnrs, and then we have some like special people that we play what we consider Frightnrs posse. You know what I mean? We have a percussionist, Mike Torres, that just is literally the best percussionist. Like, he doesn't even need to come to practice. We don't even need him to come. Like, he just hits it at shows with us and like live performances. Like, this guy is gifted, And right now we're working with a guitarist named Anant, who's like, he's actually a saxophone player, but man, he's killing it on guitar. He's just doing guitar for us right now, but we're working on some stuff together. But that's kind of like the core group right now. And then, and we got this other guy, Ed, our good friend, who works some special sound effects I can't even say. And we collab with Johnny too right here. We like do some fun stuff with him.
Johnny's been telling me about the record that you guys have in the vault. That he doesn't want me to even hear the record.
He's been what?
Hey, what?
Okay.
Nah, that's confidential.
Okay, we respect that. I like how you guys actually do the releases as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we're gonna go back for a minute and start off with the first 2 EPs that you guys did. You worked with a very well-known producer.
Well, I'll say like actually when we started off like we grew up kind of like having the Slackers as one of our bands that we kind of looked up to, and more we're just kind of getting closer to them and like kind of knowing them as individuals. And actually the guitarist of that band, Agent J, was one of Dan's really good friends, and he's kind of the guy that's saying like, yo, you guys need to record, like stop wasting time, like keep playing shows, like let's get something down. And he's actually the one that introduced us to Victor, like Tikla. And he's just like, he actually booked time at Tick's studio, and he's like, yo, I got this band, and he brought us in, and then we just recorded our tunes there. And then like Tick would just like, he was only just working the board that day, but then like, it's the first time he ever heard the songs that we're recording, which was from like our first EP. But he would just take like 1 or 2 things at the end of a tune after recorded, and we're like, oh my god, this dude fucking gets us. He really understands what we're trying to do. And like, it's like kind of like the puzzle pieces just fit together, and like like mentally after that, we're always just gonna work with Tick. Like he's actually like also a core member of the Frightnrs, I would say, you know.
Okay. Now, I was actually born in Hammersmith, London. And when I first heard you guys, I actually thought you guys was from England. The sound, the era that you guys pulled from to create your music, it's one of my favorite eras, the rocksteady era. You mentioned a little ska in there as well. I hear that in the sound as well. Okay, so now, before we get back into a little bit of music, when you guys first got the core four together and started actually doing music, what were you guys actually doing? Were you guys just performing live, or did you have that goal that we're gonna get into the studio and start recording?
Like, this is something that I would like preach to any other band, is that we spent over 4 years just getting our sound right. Like, we were not messing around, you know what I mean? Like, we listened to records and we played. We listened to records and we played. We listened to records and we played. Like the dedication we'd spent on making it sound like how it was played is the thing that's missing from every band. Like, I won't say every band, but what's missing from most bands today that just form and say they're a reggae band, like in our scene, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we could do this, but like, it really takes like time and effort, and you can't just like fake it, you know what I mean? It's very like dedicated music to me, and like you really need to have a passion and like obedience for it, and it's like important, and I feel like that's a key component of our band.
You definitely hear it in the sound. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna get back into maybe 2 records and come back and continue the interview. Power Reggae Radio, PowerReggae.com. We back. Sounds of the Frightnrs. We enjoying ourselves in the studio tonight. We're gonna get back into this interview. That last record that we played, was that off of one of the older EPs or?
Nah, that was go ahead.
Switch it on.
Nah, actually that was like on actually Nothing More to Say, and the great thing about that song is like when we were writing for this record, like we were in like kind of the best state we were in, as in like creatively, and like we were able to put songs together so well just because we're focused on writing something, you know. Before this we had like usually we could just write as we came along songs and then record it after a year, but for this, like, we agreed with Japtone, like, you got this like week to record the record, so we had to like write everything up until there for that effort, you know.
Okay, before we even get into the Nothing More to Say album, because that was the actual first album that you guys
first LP,
full-length album. You guys did 3 EPs.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm familiar with the last one after being introduced to the album, the full-length album. It made me go back and look for earlier music, and I found the earlier EP. Okay, your earlier recordings, you said it was EPs. Tell us a little bit about when you first went to the studio. You started off talking about how it was working with Tickler, but tell us a little bit more of those first studio sessions, those first EPs you guys were able to put together, the feedback you got from it, and what it was able to do for the Frightnrs as a group starting out.
Alright, so I'm going to take you on a little bit of a timeline journey. It'll be easier that way, kind of summarize it, but it's going to be a little long, but I'll try to summarize it as best I can. So I already talked about that record that Jay wanted us to record, H&J from the Slackers, and got us in Tick Studio first time. So that was our first like EP release, and we released that on our own, you know, and that had songs like, what are the tunes on that?
Like Make Up Your Mind.
No, it's not decent.
Oh, the first one.
So I think the biggest tune on that is And I Wouldn't Tell You This. That kind of gave us the most recognition at that time. That was like, I think 2012, I think, when that released. And that was just our effort to get in the studio and like put something out there. And pretty much like right after that, because we met Tick, we basically started talking. We're like, hey, we want to work together, you know, like the relationship started there from the introduction. And after that, after we put that out ourselves, we basically just kept writing stuff, and over time, like Tick just was convincing us, let's try to record this stuff. And after that, I think we put out another EP with just like 2 songs, which was Never Answer and Admiration, right? And Admiration at the time, like after a little while, like that tune like blew up like crazy, actually, just like in a independent way. It was a song that we released on our own, like it just had a lot of recognition, enough that like even David Rodigan started playing that tune on BBC Radio. And even from that, his son Oliver Rodigan reached out to me, who was working with like Mad Decent at the time, and he was like, yo, like, can I remix this tune? And like, you know, the first thought on our end, we're like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, we're afraid of where that would go, but like, he's just like, in our minds, we're just like, well, it will open up our music to a whole different audience that wouldn't have heard it otherwise. And it couldn't, you know, we just made the decision that it could work. And after he like kind of started working on it, during all this time is like when we were just still working with Tick within the year, and we're just gonna release our second EP on our own. And right after Oliver basically made the idea of the remix, he told us like, hey, like, we want to release this through Mad Decent, and like, do you have anything else that you have? And like, so we sent him like the 4 or 5 tunes we're about to release on our own, and he's like, yeah, that's like, this makes so much sense to release right now together. And one of those tunes from all those tunes, which is like Make Up Your Mind and all those tunes, was the I'd Rather Go Blind Etta James version, which is this one tune we thought felt a little different from the rest of the record, because this was more of like, to us, what sounds like more like rub-a-dub reggae record, which is like kind of our actual sound, you know what I mean? But when we wanted to do that I'd Rather Go Blind thing, like at the time, like Rich and Preet, like the bassy and the drumming of our band, was working with Daptone on different projects, and like we had kind of an in through Tommy Brennick, who, you know, is part of like Charles Bradley's band, and one of the greatest guitarists I ever heard, and also recorded on our record. He basically, we talked to him about, hey, maybe Daptone would be interested in this song. So we sent it to him, and like literally within a week, they like, I don't know how they got the 45 together so quickly, but I've never seen that happen before, and they had the 45 ready before even Mad Decent released the EP digitally. You know what I mean? Like, they just did it. They're like, yes, we want this. And that led on to the introduction of the Daptone thing.
Okay, now, I think you answered my next question. Because my next question is actually the first couple of EPs that you guys worked on. Were they all digital releases? Because you guys have a sound and a feel to you that you expect vinyl. And there's nothing more to say. Of course, that's a vinyl release. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But the first EPs, did you guys just do it digitally, or did the record labels actually take the time out to press vinyl as well?
No, I mean, everything was digital until, I think, was I'd Rather Go Blind the first one? Or was,
I'd Rather Go Blind and then Sharing Admiration.
Right, Sharing Admiration.
I believe that came from these record labels heard you guys sound and recognized that you needed to be on vinyl as well, which is a testament to the music that you guys are doing.
Definitely.
Okay, so now moving on to the full-length album. Nothing more to say. You guys, earlier you alluded to Daptone giving you a time frame to work. Were you guys able to get it done in that week time frame because you guys had the records already written, you guys know where you wanted to go with the Nothing More to Say project?
We had a lot of stuff ready. We had been writing and actually been recording demos, but once we got involved with Daptone, we kind of like buckled down at the house, at Mar House, we call it, in Queens. And we had a very productive, like 2 or 3 week period where we were just non-stop making demos, seeing what's working, and that was like one of the most fun times in this band for me. And actually a lot of that material ended up not being right for the record. Like, you know, Vic and the guys at Daptone were like kind of rejecting this and that, and we ended up having to kind of come up with a couple more here and there and fine tune and this and that. So it was kind of like it was a mixed bag. We had a bunch of stuff that was really solid that was done already, but we also had to put a lot of work in to get a few songs there. You know what I mean?
Okay. In between the period of releasing the EPs and doing the full-length album, were you guys able to go out and perform the music as a live band and get feedback from a live crowd?
We had some shows, but yeah, I mean, it was around that time. We didn't really know it, but you know, Dan was getting a little bit weaker, or you know, it wasn't as easy for him, and we were kind of getting pissed. We were like, you know, it's finally, we're getting somewhere with this stuff. Let's go. But we did. How many shows did we do?
Honestly, we didn't actually get to like promote the record. Like
Yeah.
when the record came out, Dan was like gone. I mean, he passed away before the record came out.
Yeah.
And when we're recording is like when like it was becoming obvious. Like it's just like we didn't know what was going on with Dan, and slowly throughout the process, we could just see that he wasn't able to reach like his vocal ability as he used to. You know what I mean? Like we did a lot of very like I just want to big up. Let's just reverse. Like we really need to big up our producer Tickler, because like he really like came through for us on this record, and there's a lot of like really hard things we had to deal with. Like when we're losing our friend and we're losing one of our family and our bandmate, like to constantly have to listen to this music and like our man like sing and like try to mix this stuff, like it's pretty much like our band's like one of the hardest experiences of our lives. You know, like think about like one of your best friends passing and like having to hear his voice constantly because you're in the middle of mixing your record. You know what I mean? And like Victor really pulled through in a lot of places. Like we recorded what we could at Daptone, which was mostly, we had a lot of songs written, but we did write a lot of the parts at the actual studio because that's the only time we had. And even like, as I said, like Tommy Brennick and this other amazing guitarist, Michael August, came in. He's known as Mike Fabulous, and he has records known as Lord Echo, and he's also an amazing like different kind of artist, but he really just came through for our rhythm guitar track for this record. And all that stuff, like these two guitarists just came in and recorded it with us on the spot, like in the studio as a live band, which is pretty, like no one does that really anymore in like reggae. I mean, today it's like people have a whole different recording process, is what I mean. Like people use digital means to like kind of make things work, but Tickler came through in the way that we had demos recorded at our home studio, Mar House, of Dan's vocals from different things, and he was able to piece it together. Like Trouble in Here is one of those songs where almost a lot of those tracks were taken straight from just our demos, and he made it sound so good that it could just fit on the record, and that's like a huge feat.
Okay. So now you guys were able to release the full-length album, the first from the group, through Daptone, produced by Tickler. Unfortunately, like you said, Dan passed away in the process, so he wasn't able to see the project come to its full fruition. Once the project was released, I know it was a difficult period even hearing the music after, but I know also you guys must have been proud of the body of music that you put out.
Yeah, I mean, like the perfect word for it is bittersweet. I mean, we're so proud of what we reached our goal as a band, but we're not all here to, experience it,
You guys are getting good feedback, you're getting played on BBC, you're getting a lot of...
Shout out to Ram Jam Rodigan right now, one time.
Yes, shout out to David Rodigan. But again, you guys are missing a key component from the band. How were you guys able to promote the project moving forward from that?
I'll say that's like one step back of what we're doing is like usually when a band releases their record, they promote it, they tour the world, but or tour wherever they need to. But I've actually always been proud of being a band from New York and like just being extra creative in the way we release our music and represent our music. Like we made it a point to be like, yeah, we play Jamaican music how it should be played, but we're not Jamaican, right? We don't use lions, red, yellow, green, because it's really not us, you know what I mean? We use our own representation, like New York, like we have this black and white represent, like straight out of the Frightnrs kind of stuff. Like we use devil heads and things like that, but it doesn't mean we're like Satanists, or it means like exactly what I said. We write love songs, but out of the kind of like heartbreak kind of idea, you know what I mean? And like, we're not trying to represent anything but that. We're trying to take what we got from the genre and how much we respect it. We're not trying to portray anything we're not, you know, and that's a super key component to everything.
Okay. How were you guys able to go out and perform the record with the passing of Dan, with the release and the success that you guys would get, the recognition? How were you guys able to go out and promote the record as a live band playing?
Well, sorry, that was my second point of my answer. Is just, you know, I hate to bring up like Chance the Rapper, but he's been one of my influences since I was young. You know, I like messed with this rapper as in like, as in his marketing scheme, as in like, I know this one quote I heard from him recent is like, you always got to be 2-3 steps ahead of like the record companies, because as soon as they catch up, they catch your profit. So my idea of our band and like,
Can you repeat what you just said just now?
yeah,
I'm
like,
sorry.
you need to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of the record companies, because as soon as they catch up, this is a quote from Chance too, as soon as they catch up, they catch your profit, right? So as long as you're like you're 2 steps ahead of them, as in every way you do, you represent yourself, the way you put out your music. Like, to me, like, forget everything behind us. Like, I just want to do new shit. I only do new shit. We only fuck with new shit. Like, we only like try to represent ourselves the exact way we are, and how much like New York reggae means to us, and how we could represent it to people, that it influences the youth so much that the genre comes back so strong that it's like, that's what our goal is, really. You know what I mean? And so we can't really market it anymore because we don't got a singer and we can't perform it. But we did this dub record thanks to Victor, you know, who like, big up Victor, because honestly he put another fire in our ass that was like, yeah, we can't keep going. And we promised my man Dan, we all promised Bucky that like, as long as we could make music, we will make it happen. But I also promised Dan that unless it's up to the caliber of Frightnrs, like, we're not gonna put it out. You know what I mean?
Okay, now, I'm glad you touched on the marketing and what you guys put into it, because there's a couple of things that stood out to me from you guys walking to the studio and from actually getting familiar with your music. The dress, the style, the way you guys carry yourself. You guys do reggae music, but the way you carry yourself, it's more, you get that energy of more of a bebop type band, old 60s, 70s type band. The black and white that you represent, the t-shirt that you're wearing right now, it's hurting my eyes actually because I realized
It's that 3D shit.
I realized the shirt was actually in 3D. The new release, the album cover, also actually in 3D. It comes with 3D glasses included inside. So when you get the album, you get the 3D glasses and you can look at the album in the way it's supposed to be. Whose idea was that?
It was mine, Chuck.
Okay, and
I'm an idea guy. That's how I promote myself, right?
what made you come up with the idea for a 3D? I believe I saw one artist do it before, and that was Jay-Z.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my influence, but I mean, a lot of people messed with 3D for a long time, right? But it was simple as in like, we always knew there was a possibility of a versions record because of the way Victor is, Tickler. Like, we have certain ideas when we're mixing stuff. We're like, oh, what if we drop out the drums over here? And he's like, always pretty hesitant at it. But I realized why. It's because he has the foresight of like, this is gonna be dope for like the dub. You know what I mean? So he had the foresight to see that. And I remember I was just messing with the original cover, and at one point I found this like filter that was like a 3D filter, and I was like, yo, this would be so dope for like the versions record or whatever we're gonna name it. And we already, like, as soon as sort of the guys are all into it, and like, working with a label is interesting because I mean, we have our creative flow and we all think we're like heavy creatives, like we prosper on that. Like we're really like confident in our creativity. And then if you have a label, you have to balance it with that, like as in pitch stuff to them. and that's a whole different thing. And then like I've been turned down a good amount of times by Daptone, not in a bad way, but maybe some of my ideas are a little crazy. But I pitched this idea, and they're like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was like, oh, like they made it happen. Like shout outs to Daptone for actually making it happen and like getting these dope ass classes in every record. And I'm proud of the record. I'm proud of what it looks like, and I think it's a perfect adaptation visually of what like kind of dub feels like, and like that's what I kind of wanted to build off of in general.
Okay, we're gonna get into the dub version album in a minute. That's the latest release from the Frightnrs. But I still want to delve into where the music came from that created the dub album, which was the Nothing More to Say LP. The writing on the LP, who's responsible for the songs? Is it a group effort, or is it one person was actually putting pen to paper and coming up with the songs and the other group members come up with the sound?
I mean, it was a collaborative effort. A couple of the songs, you'll see it just credits Dan Klein, because, you know, he would sometimes come to us with a whole song done, just exactly how we wanted it. We demoed it, and it worked, because he just had the whole idea in his head. I love those. But yeah, I mean, it was a group effort. You know, Preet would come in, the bassy would come in with finished songs, crazy demos that he made at his place in Left Rec. Chuck would come in with finished song or a line or something that he came up with that would just sound crazy and would get us like riled up, and we just start recording and jamming on it. So it was definitely a mixed, shared effort, but there were some songs that it was individuals.
Okay, another thing I noticed about you guys, you have the sound that, outside of Jamaica, I would credit the UK with having the most unique reggae sound. And I believe you guys have a little bit of a UK sound to you with your music. Have you guys been able to travel to the UK, perform in the UK, or getting any feedback from, let's say, producers like Mad Professor?
You want to take it? Well, I mean, we've gotten a lot of love from Rodigan, of course, and we love UK, Lovers Rock, and all that stuff. But you know, unfortunately, because of the circumstances, we haven't been able to tour or really go anywhere. We've gotten a bunch of really nice offers, and you know, we just can't do it. But like Chuck was saying, we're proud of where we're coming from, and we're doing what we can to say it.
And you know, we get I think we get more love from UK than America, honestly, to be strict up. And I just want to say shout out to the Skins. Like, we can't make it to play shows with the Skins. The Skins came out to New York to play a show in my house that we could our house to record, so we could show people that we respect each other. You know, Skins is a little different from our genre, but I've always respected their like combination of sounds. You know, they got a little bit of grime, a little that UK specials, like everything mixed into one, and they're like at least doing some original stuff that, like, I think that's a cool crew.
My suggestion to you guys would be, with the dub album being released, go hard in the UK, because the UK is, again, as a foreign-based country, I think, most responsible for that dub sound now in the business. So, shout out to UK. We have listeners in the UK listening to us right now. So, check these guys out, the Frightnrs. We're going to get back into some more music, and when we come back, we're going to touch on the dub album, and we're going to give you something new off of the dub album as well before we leave tonight. Power Reggae Radio, TGM Radio, PowerReggae.com. TGM Radio, Power Reggae Radio, PowerReggae.com. We back with the Frightnrs in the building. Couple more songs. Couple more songs off of the album. And once again, I want the listeners to realize that these guys put out a great album entitled Nothing More to Say. It's available now. Mamma mia! It's available now on all digital platforms. But also, with the tragic events that befell the group, you guys extended the music on this album by releasing a dub version of the album. And anyone that knows me knows that I preach dub versions, I love dub versions, I love dub wise. So
I'll say the number one best thing about being a selector is having B-sides.
exactly. So now, for the listeners and the fans that are familiar with the Frightnrs and the Nothing More to Say LP, these guys have recently, earlier last month, October, officially released the dub version entitled
More to Say version.
More to Say. Once again, the 3D cover, you get the 3D glasses inside. It's a beautiful package. And if you're familiar with the songs off of the LP, this is an extension of it. You get the feel, Tickler helping these guys out in the studio. He's part of the team as well, as they say. And basically perfecting the Nothing More to Say album. Tell us a little bit more of the dub album. Tell us about the dub release party you had as well, the album release party for the dub version album, and what you guys are doing going forward.
Yeah, like we had a dub release party at this venue, Our Wicked Lady, which is a venue that actually the sound engineer on the album, Wayne, is part owner of the bar. So it's kind of a family place in general. We had a release there last year for Nothing More to Say, but we didn't perform. So this year, like, we thought it'd be like a special little. We didn't like exactly promote it that we're gonna perform, but we tried to keep it like kind of mysterious, like are they gonna play or not? And we got like our man Carlton Livingston, living legend, to play like tunes with us, and I was like, he's like again one of the most down to earth dudes I've met. And
let me stop you for a minute.
Sure.
That's incredible.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
Where did the connection with Carlton Livingston come about?
I got this guy Mush, Jeremy Mushlin. He's my connect with a lot of these guys. Like he's been holding down reggae culture in New York City for a minute, and he just like has a party, Alparagus Sound, and I play in I just sub with him in Top Shot, a band with Screechy Dan, which is another legend.
Shout out to Screechy.
Like one of the most talented people I've ever met. Screechy Dan, like if you don't know Screechy Dan, like you're messing up for real.
He's a friend to the room. Very familiar. He was out there a couple weeks.
We consider him Frightnrs posse too, right?
No, okay. Shout out to the whole Vital crew. Okay, so now you were able to have Carlton Livingston perform at the album release party. The relationship with Carlton Livingston, what did he tell you about the Frightnrs sound?
He told us, he said, like, we had about 3 practices. I remember every practice because he would just come in and like, he'd be like, no, let's just keep it easy. Like he would just let us do our thing, and then anytime he had an opinion, he would say it would be minimal, but he came in telling us how much he loved Rocksteady, and like when he told me that, like, I basically emailed him, I'm like, yo, we met, because I backed him up with Top Shot at one time with Mush, and he played, 100 Way to College with us. And I was like, yo, we met that one time and we're doing this performance. I'd love if we could back you up for a couple of tunes because it's like a big deal when we need like a heavy hitter, And he just wrote me like every email I used to write him about 3 paragraphs, and his response for every email was just cool, K-E-W-L. No matter what it was, if I had questions, it's just like cool, right? so my first question was like, yo, I respect you so much, like blah, 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 blah. Will you do this with us? And he's just like, cool. I'm like, that doesn't answer like any of my questions, right? So like the next
He
one.
He basically was answering your question.
Yeah, I guess he was, right? In his own way he was. And like the coolest thing about the next time he emailed me is like, yo, I listened to some of your stuff and I was wondering if you'd do this tune with me. And it's called Bad Boys, and it's a tune that Carlton wrote in the 80s, I believe, maybe 90s, like close to the 90s. And he told me that's a Rocksteady tune, and he's never performed it live before. We got to perform that with him, which was like an honor.
Cool. Okay. One of my suggestions, a selfish suggestion before we tune out the interview is, you guys have a sound. You guys have a sound that basically captures one of my favorite eras in reggae music. Reach out to a couple of artists. Let them hear what you're doing. I believe there's a lot of artists that could benefit from the sound. You may be able to revitalize some of the original artists that you grew up listening to career with the sound that you have. And I hope you guys pursue that. With that being said, more to say, the dub version album is available now on all digital platforms.
Boom, boom, boom.
You get the 3D treatment inside. Is the 3D only for the vinyl?
It's only vinyl. It's only vinyl.
So for the vinyl killers, the vinyl lovers like Johnny Go Figure, I know that copy is going to him.
Yeah, also thanks to a fan, like literally, like Daptone did a pre-release like for the record, and they did a special like purple sound, like a purple version of the record. That sold out in one day, and then the regular record sold out in the second day, so it's gone in 2 days.
The actual
yeah,
vinyl
the
is
vinyl,
purple?
the pre-order vinyl from Daptone sold out in 2 days, you know?
That's cool.
And I think like you could only get it at your independent like
That's the second
chill
person.
ass record stores, because it's not in every record store. Just they gotta be down to earth.
That's the second. That's the second act that I heard did that for the year 2017. Do you know who was the other act with a colored vinyl record release? Quick trivia, Power Reggae trivia.
Nah, I don't know.
Protege, the Blood Money release. He has a red. He has a red vinyl release. So if you, I know you are vinyl selector. Try to pick that up if you could. But anyway, more to say. Versions is available now on all digital platforms. Go and check it out. Anything you guys want to say before we tune out tonight? We're gonna tune out. Instead of going live, we're going to give you, in typical Power Reggae fashion, dub-wise versions when we tune out. But anything you want to say, any shout-outs you want to give anybody who has helped us, the Frightnrs in their journey so far, anybody who helped you in any type of way that you want to give thanks to right now?
First and foremost, I want to always outline the Frightnrs' vision, and our goal is to influence the youth them into making the sound right? So like there's plenty, like we got a diluted genre out here, right? New York is a staple of reggae, right? We got bands not coming out with the right sound. But we got some hot bands out here too. Shout out to the Far East band.
Shout out to Maddie Ruthless.
Shout out to
Far
Maddie Ruthless.
East, yes.
That's my, now you know I'm a selector, that's my partner in crime, Junior Volcano Posse, Maddie Ruthless every time. Shout out to Top Shotter Band and Screechy Dan out here in New York, killing it every time. Johnny Osborne's out here, Carlton Livingston's out here. New York is flourishing still. And I just want to let the youth know that it's in your hands. Like, we're doing this for you. Take your time. Make this sound right. Don't just go out there. Don't rush out there to play some reggae. Like, get it right, because we need it. And we want it to prosper. And that's like the Frightnrs' vision. It's not just about us, baby. It's about y'all. And we need that to happen. Second of most is shout out to Victor Axelrod Tickler, like one of the biggest producers in New York. And he don't even need marketing, you know what I mean? But I'm just doing it because he does his thing. And he's a big deal. Like y'all don't know, but producers aren't producers no more.
We know.
People who call themselves producers are just faking it now, man. This guy could play every instrument you throw at him. Like, yo, listen to Gotta Make Time, and the vibes on that shit is Tickler, and it's fire. He decided not to put that in the original, and as soon as I heard there was gonna be a versions record, I said, Tick, you need to put the vibes right back on that track, because it's gonna be fire. And then lastly, shout out to New York, shout out to Queens. I'm gonna pass the mic.
I want to shout out the Marr House, our home, the Marr family. They tolerate all the noise all the time, and they love it. They invite it. Shout out Mickey and Jack, 2 original Frightnrs members. I want to shout out Jens. It's a tape op from Diamond Mine Studio. I want to shout out Tommy Brennick. And
musically, I mean, we're a bunch of like, we're we're like vinyl heads in the sense is like we love like sound, and we've had a real tough year, 2 years, 3 years. It just doesn't seem to be ending. But we lost Sharon, we lost Charles Bradley, and we're losing a lot of light in life. We're losing a lot of light, and like music is our light in life. And if you got a vision and you got a light in your life and you think you could sing, like, just go for it, because we need more of that, and we need more soul and actual passion from people. And that's all I want to preach to all y'all.
All right, I'm gonna tell you what I'm looking forward to. At the start of the interview, you mentioned that you are a selector. What name do you go by as a selector in New York City?
I used to go by a Selector Chuck, and then I got too many requests. It's Neglector Chuck.
Okay, what we gonna do is, this guy sitting right next to me, Father G, Father German, he has the hottest events in the city right now. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna try to get you down to a couple of events where you can give us the more to say versions, couple other versions from the Frightnrs. But we are looking forward to the continuation of the Frightnrs music. Once you put it down, it's there. It will never die. It will never go away. It's there to exist. It's there to move forward, and we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to helping the Frightnrs move forward as a band. TGM Radio, Power Reggae Radio. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come through.
I appreciate y'all. And one more thing, I mean, as always, I just want to like dedicate everything that we're doing, and the only reason we continue, and if you hear music from us, it's because we believe it's the same caliber as the music that we promised to Dan Brookie Klein that we would continue.
Shout out to Dan Klein, R.I.P. The Ticklers. We gonna continue. We're gonna continue, and we're gonna give you the vein of what's some of the other bands' names that you mentioned?
The Far East Top Shot
Far East.
Band. I mean, also there's like a huge amount of selectors that I'm like, you know, like Jeremy Friedman, Scratch Famous, left New York recently from Deadly Dragon Sound. That's a
He's
huge.
tearing down Japan, right?
That's a huge blow to New York reggae to me.
We still got Johnny.
We got Johnny, you know, I can't believe I can shout out Johnny.
Yeah, Deadly Dragon.
Nah,
still
Deadly Dragon's alive. I'm just saying it should be recognized that Jeremy leaving is a huge blow to like our scene, and like that dude like basically raised me without raising me with music, you know what I mean? And I have a huge amount of respect for him, and I miss him.
Okay. Once again, TGM Radio, Power Reggae Radio, PowerReggae.com. The Frightnrs. It's definitely a pleasure. Looking forward to much more from you guys. Go and check out the new release, More to Say. That's the versions. Go and check out that full-length LP, Nothing More to Say. The Frightnrs. Pleasure.
Thanks for having us.